Now that the Christmas season is here, a lot of you are familiar probably with going to a Christmas tree lot to buy a tree that's already cut. But where are these trees grown? And better yet, how are they grown? Well, today we're at the Jankowski Christmas tree farm. And this is Jankowski right here. And he has some Christmas trees that he has grown. He also has cut trees for sale and balled and burlap trees. And how long have you been in this business?
Since 1968. That's 17 years.
17 years.
Well, I figure. Or 19 years. 19 years.
So you've probably got a whole range of Christmas trees, sizes and
Oh, yes.
types available. A lot of people probably don't think about growing Christmas trees in Oklahoma. You might think it's too far south or too hot or something. But there are certain types that do well here.
Scotch pine do great. And the Virginia pine do great.
And Virginia pine. That's one that a lot of you might not be familiar with, but evidently it takes the heat well.
Very well.
Well, if you're going to grow Christmas trees, how long before you can get a tree, say, this size?
A Scotch pine, probably 8 years.
8 years. So that's a long-term
Sometimes
investment.
10. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You need patience. You don't do it overnight.
Yeah,
So.
I see. So it's not a one-year deal. You got a long time before you realize a profit in some
That's
enterprise
true.
like this.
And the Virginia pine will make in about 6 years. So
So it's a
lot
little
faster.
faster growing.
But it takes more work. You have to prune those 2-3 times a year because of the rapid growth.
Now, when people come out to your farm, they can come out and pick a tree growing right out in the field, and you'll cut it for them.
That's right.
So that's as fresh as you can get if you want to cut Christmas trees.
Or they can cut it themselves if they want to.
You said you mentioned earlier today you had someone that came out with an axe.
I had one man here from way back east, and he insisted on cutting this tree down with an axe. And of course, I evened it up with a chainsaw after he cut it because it was a mess.
I guess that was part of his Christmas tradition.
Tradition,
Cut
right.
it with an axe.
Right. We need more of it.
Yeah. Well, how do you get started with these trees?
How do I get started?
Where do you begin? If you want to plant Christmas trees, what size do you start with?
Seedlings. Oh, I always started with 8 to 14-inch seedlings. They were generally 3-year-old seedlings. Now, some use the 2-year-old seedlings, but I prefer the 3.
I see.
So, and of course, then you need the ground.
Good soil that's well drained? Or?
Soil that's well drained is the main thing.
Well, do you have some we can look at? They're just baby, small trees?
Oh, yes, out here.
Okay.
We've got plenty.
Well, let's go look at the beginnings of a Christmas tree farm. So, Jan, when you start to grow a Christmas tree farm, you start off with the small 1-year-old liners? The
No,
seedlings?
3-year-old.
Oh, 3-year-old.
3-year-old, what I use.
And how old are these trees right here?
These are about 4 years old.
4 years old.
So,
When they're small like this, what types of care do they require when they're so little?
Well, mostly weed control and grass control. And we do that by mowing between the rows and using, well, I use Roundup for killing weeds.
Herbicide
Right.
to control
There are
them.
different kinds of herbicides. I don't recommend one over the other, but everybody has their preferences.
Now, these are Scotch pines.
These are Scotch
here.
pine.
They already have a little bit of a nice Christmas tree shape to them.
They start to shape up about the 3rd year.
And when
And that's about the time when you kind of touch them up.
what do you mean by that?
Well, take your pruners down through there and start shaping them.
Clip off small little
Yeah.
areas. Now,
Right.
what do we do when we get into ones that are a little larger, like these Virginia pines here?
Well,
How do you shape those?
then you have to shear. And on Virginia pine, they grow so fast that you have to shear sometimes 3 times in the year.
Now,
in the summer.
you do that, in the summertime, while they're actively growing. You have to go through and do every tree 3 times?
Yeah,
So that's a lot of labor involved in getting the nice Christmas tree shape
that's
to them.
true. But the Virginia pine grows so fast that you sell them quicker. So they'll make it about 6 years. So
So as a Christmas tree grower, you'd rather have Virginia pine?
Well, I like both. Yeah, 'cause these do require more work.
Oh, that's nice and dense. Lots of room for ornaments on there.
Oh, plenty, plenty. Yeah, and they have a soft, soft needle. Not quite as long as white pine, but longer than the Scotch pine.
I see. And not quite as stiff as the Scotch pine.
Right.
So a little bit lighter green color than the Scotch pine, though.
That's true.
Now, can we ever grow, sometimes you hear of trees like, spruce and things like that, or Douglas fir, available at Christmas tree lots that are shipped in. Can we grow those in Oklahoma?
You can grow them, but they grow so much slower, and they're riskier. You know, you won't have the survival rate if you field grown.
Because of our high temperatures.
Right, and the altitude too, I suppose. You know, I figure all your spruce and firs are mostly mountain trees. You know, trees with lots of altitude.
So that makes quite a bit of difference too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What types of pests do you run into on Christmas trees?
Well, the worst one is pine tip moth, and they love the Virginia pine. You need to spray, about every 3 weeks to keep them totally under control.
Every 3 weeks through the whole growing season?
Right.
Well, that's a lot more labor there too.
As soon as the weather warms up, the Virginia pine, or the pine tip moth on the Virginia pine start hatching, and then they'll complete a cycle about every 3 weeks.
Now these are the ones that tunnel into the little terminal
at the
buds,
tip of the bud, right.
and that hurts your shape overall,
Right.
I guess.
And leaves a brown spot.
Yeah,
So.
and you can't have that. Well, now you got trees here that are, these, what would you call this, about a 5-foot tree?
5.5.
5.5 foot tree. And we looked earlier and noticed that you had some great big ones. Let's go take a look at those and see how you market those trees.
Okay, fine. I'm proud of those.
Well, they sure look nice. Well, Jan, this is a beautiful tree. Now, this is a Scotch pine here?
Scotch pine.
How old is this tree?
This tree has been in the ground since about 1974. So that'll make it about 13, 14 years old.
So it's been here for a while then.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, on a tree like this, how will you make this into a Christmas tree? Obviously, the trunk is too tall. How do you handle that?
Well, we'll cut it off about 15 inches from where the branches start, and then measure from there. We don't measure from the ground. We measure from just a usable tree.
Is a tree this size still sold by the number of feet, by foot?
No, quality is what we go by and size. When they get this big.
Yeah, this is beautiful. It's almost a perfect shape. Just nice and Christmas tree-like, and nice and full and dark. Not all the trees, I guess, turn out this way, though, do they?
No. And those that don't, while we use the bad branches or the good branches from a bad tree, and we make grave blankets on them.
We'll have to take a look at those in a few minutes.
Okay.
Now, a tree like this is too big for my house, obviously, and a lot of other people's too. Where do you sell these?
Well, surprising as it may seem, some people put trees like this in the house, but they have the cathedral ceilings, you know. But we sell them to hotels, motels, banks, funeral homes, and so forth.
Places that have a big lobby and need to fill a large space.
Right. Well, some people put them out in the yard. I mean, they just dig a hole out there and put the trunk in the ground and decorate it out in the yard.
I guess our national Christmas tree in Washington is that way. They put it outside on the White House lawn and then decorate it.
Right.
Well, you mentioned that you have a use for some of the culls and some of the leftover boughs as grave blankets. Let's go take a look at those.
Okay, fine. They're up here at the Red Barn.
Okay. So these are trees that you've cut out that were misshapen and
just plain culls.
Disease, just culls, okay. Yeah. When you have trees like this, you can, I guess, what do you do with them? Cut up the branches?
You can do different things with them. You can make wreaths with them. You can make grave blankets with them. You can make roping with them. I make grave blankets with them.
And then the roping across the back fence is something, if they visit a Christmas tree farm, might be available as a byproduct or something they could make
Right.
themselves.
Right.
I see. And these are your grave
Now
blankets.
these are the grave blankets. We make half blankets and we make full blankets.
And how do you make this? This is on a...
Well, first we
Frame?
cut small pieces off the comb material, and then we take chicken wire and weave it in and out of the holes.
Oh,
So
okay. There's a lot of time involved in that
quite
then.
a bit, yeah. And then we put the streamers on in the bow and pine cones, and it dresses up real nice.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
a nice thing to remember family members by.
Right. Yeah, people out here use quite a few of these.
I've seen that in at Christmas time in cemeteries. And
Right.
this is your full length one here?
These are the full size. You see, they're about a good 6 foot tall.
Oh, yes.
Long.
That takes a lot of little branches to make one of those.
Quite a
then.
few. Yeah.
What other byproducts can you make from the cull trees?
Well, wreaths for one. Wreaths.
You have some of those?
And this gives you an example of what they look like. Now here's one that's decorated,
Oh, that's nice.
and this is one that's undecorated, and we sell them both ways.
So you could take them home, put your own ornaments
Right,
and bows on
right,
them and
right.
things.
So that's another thing that can be done with the cull material.
Now,
So-
in caring for a wreath like this, you again would want to be careful. It will get dry in time. You'd want to be careful not to put candlelight near it and
Or
things like
don't
that.
hang it over the fireplace.
Don't. Good
Yeah.
advice.
So,
Good advice.
yeah, they look good on the doors. That's
So
where I like them.
probably best for outdoors then.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now, some people when they visit a Christmas tree farm, they want to cut a tree down and take it home. But then there are others, I suppose, who want to have a tree to remember from year to year.
And they plant them in the yard after Christmas.
So that's why you have these balled and burlapped trees here.
Right. And we have different kinds. Because right now I'm down to a Scotch pine and blue spruce.
Now,
Excuse me.
in caring for a live tree like this, it's a lot different than a cut tree that you're just going to pitch out for the birds to nest in afterwards
Right.
or whatever. What special precautions should they take once they get these into the house?
Well, the first thing they need to do is to water them frequently. Don't let them dry out without drowning them.
Yes.
And use the cool lights. Don't overheat the trees.
So instead of the big old light bulbs, use the little twinkle type lights?
Right. And don't put it in front of a hot air register. Don't put it near a fireplace or a wood stove, because they will really dry out a tree.
Now this tree is a live pine tree. It is in a semi-dormant state right now. With a tree like this, would you recommend that they wait until closer to Christmas time to purchase it?
Oh, yeah. Especially before they put it in the house, you know.
Maybe, I usually tell people 5 days to a week is the most maximum time that you should keep it in a warm house.
Well, true for the average person. Now, I've had them nearly 30 days.
Oh, really?
But, you know, I kept close watch over it. But I wouldn't recommend 30 days. I always say about 10 days is plenty, so
And
maximum.
then take it out and plant it in the yard.
Right. And if the ground is frozen, just leave it in the garage or in the barn until it warms up a little.
But remember to water it.
Remember to water
Yes.
it once in a while.
Good advice. Well, last of all, in just general care for a nice tree such as this Virginia pine that has been cut out of your field, what should customers look for when they come to shop for a Christmas tree at your farm?
Tight needles for one thing, and some weight. That's a sign that there's still a lot of sap in the tree, and that it's been fresh cut.
I see.
And good shape, nice full tree. Of course, as I say, different strokes for different folks.
Oh, sure.
Some people like them narrow, pyramidal. Some like them wide. So
Yeah, the
I've
wide
had-
ones hold lots of ornaments, I guess.
I've had customers that came in that had to bring the tree back because she couldn't get it in the front door.
Uh-oh. That is a good idea. Measure the
So-
dimensions of the area you
Yeah.
plan to place the tree before you come to shop for one.
So-
In the field, they look
They don't look as
shorter.
big.
Yeah, they don't look as
Yeah.
big until you get it in the house. So measure how tall your ceilings are and how wide an area you have to place the tree. Now, even though this is a cut tree, it still needs water.
Oh yeah,
not.
place
Yeah.
them in water. And if you happen to get a tree that's been cut a while, cut the butt off so you'll have a fresh scar, you know, so it'll draw up water.
Yes,
So,
right. Do they
and
need
you could also use an anti-desiccant spray on the needles.
to keep them from losing moisture
Right,
through the foliage?
right.
And again, it's a good idea for fire safety to use the small, cool decorative lights instead of the big old
Right.
hot lamps.
Right.
So you don't burn your house down. Well, Jan, thank you so much for showing us your Christmas tree farm, and looks like it's the type of farm enterprise that you really enjoy doing.
Well, I enjoyed growing them, and I enjoyed having you out here.
Well, thank you.
And I enjoy having the people come out.
Well,
So-
I can tell,
so,
and I know
yeah.
it's a nice family event for them to enjoy from year to year.
It certainly is.
Great. Well, thanks again.
Okay, you're welcome.